The signature win for this team remains elusive. The Badgers are 0-5 now in the last two seasons in the Fickell era against ranked teams. So much to get into on a slightly sad version of the Bucky Report. I'm Rajeev. He's Justin. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajeev and Justin, back together on a Tuesday due to some travel delays from yours truly to talk about all things Wisconsin Badgers on today's show. The Badgers fell short in a big way on Saturday night in what was a great atmosphere for this team to finally get a big win. We break down the game and answer the question, when will Luke Fickell finally get his big win? Justin and I go through positional grades today as we talk about what went wrong in this pivotal matchup. A rivalry game is on the horizon. What can we expect this team to do now in a huge road game at Iowa? We are at the Bucky Report on YouTube and wherever you can find your podcast. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps out our channel. Very much appreciate everyone's assistance with that. Justin, first of all, sorry for the late show. As you know, we like to make sure we're very regular with our Sunday shows. That's an important part of what we do here. But I had a big travel delay leaving Madison. And then I got caught up and trying to have to go to Chicago. It was a big mess. And I had a busy day yesterday. So thank you to everyone for being patient for our Bucky Report show this week. Justin, first of all, how are you feeling right now? We got a lot to talk about, but tell me how you're feeling.
Well, I picked up a cold in Madison, so it's just this weekend just piling on. I don't know. I mean, everything that we truly expected from this team is still on the table, but it was a demoralizing game, and I find myself with questions about this program and where things are headed after this game because I'm so frustrated with how inept we look in the second half of these big games after playing really well in the first half, that it's a struggle for me to feel really confident about the future.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Can you hear me okay, Justin?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My major mic is not working here, so I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to use a different mic. You can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties, first day back, all that stuff. First and foremost, one thing that I want to just say is while it wasn't the right result for us, we had an incredible trip to Madison. There are so many people that we just need to take a few minutes to thank. We have a lot to get into with the game, but I mean, first and foremost, I want to just talk about the athletic department, the university itself. Brian Mason, who is the director of NIL strategy, just such a nice guy, really helped us out with a lot of things this weekend. Darrion Jones, assistant athletic director for external operations. We got to go on the field and we got to walk around a little bit, take a few pictures on Camp Randall. That was great. Patrick Herb is the assistant AD for strategic communications. Big thanks to him. As many of you probably saw, we got to do a live show from the press box after the game. Very cool. So that's a first thank you to them. They don't have to be that nice to us, and they really are. And you know, we talk a lot about the athletic department and what Chris McIntosh is doing, and part of that is the entire culture of that athletic department. And when you have guys like Patrick and Brian and Darrion and so many countless other people that are working hard for this university and for this athletic department every single week, it is super special. So thank you for everything that you did for us on our great trip to Madison. And then we saw so many of you guys, listeners, watchers, that met up with us, that drank with us and chatted Badgers. It was great. Just a few of you that I named: Zach Bartz, Tyler Strieber, Parker, Sam, Kevin Brown, Pat, Brian, Will, Coach Mack, and the list goes on. I'm sure I forgot people. I'm sorry about that. I should have made better notes. You know who you are. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. Some people are actively commenters on the show. They're in the Locked On Badgers Discord. Some people are just like, hey, I just listened to you. A guy named Will just came up and said, I just listened to you. I love you guys. Thanks so much. Like, it was really great. Mm-hmm. And I know that I'm going to let Justin speak on this in a minute too. I just feel like of all the things that happened, that really makes these trips special. It really makes it fun. And I cannot thank you all enough for for how gracious everyone was in meeting us and we had such a good time as always. Justin, I know you wanted to say something about that too. I mean, what a great trip.
Yeah, I had an absolute blast. All the opportunities that we were given that I never thought in a million years I'd have the opportunity to have. Everyone associated with the football program that gave us opportunities to, see the field, go in the press box, giving us credentials. It was a great weekend, and I really appreciate everything that was offered. And then everyone that I got to meet, of the fans that was out and about. I'm terrible with names. I honestly am awful with it, but rest assured, I remember all of you. I had a great time chopping up football. Rajeev got to see me dancing around when we were at Scotty's because the guy was killing it on the DJ. But yeah, I had a great time going out and just hanging out with people and chopping up football. It was a blast. And then watching the Badger game at Scotty's. And I'd like to say, we appreciate them too for giving us the opportunity to put that on.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Scotty Bar has been a great partner for us. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Every time we go there, we hit up Scotty Bar. So thank you so much. All right, Justin. So we lost to Penn State, and let's just get this out of the way. We thank you, by the way, to all the Penn State listeners who just listened to our Three Big Things show. There was a lot of Penn State comments on our show. There was a lot of things. Yeah, we got it wrong. We both picked a win. I was a little higher on their defensive front than you were. I proved to be a little bit more right in that. Wow, because we had a hard time running the ball. Their defensive front really was good. Let me just start there, Justin. Give me big picture takeaways from the game. What we're going to do, just to kind of go through, guys, we are going to go through offense, defense, special teams, just to kind of talk through some things, our typical stats and all that stuff we'll put up on there. We are going to do positional grades, so that'll be fun. But give me your overall take of the game, Justin.
Well, I thought we played pretty well in the first half, minus the drops. And honestly, we needed to separate more. Like, we needed to kind of put them in a place with their backs against the walls, and that didn't happen. And honestly, we ran the football pretty well in the first half. We were on track for like 150 yards. I think we had 75 or so coming out of the first half, and we proceeded to have 10 yards in the second half. And that was the area that we said was one of the most important things in this game, was the offensive line had to make sure that we were consistently able to run the football. And we were just bad in the second half. And I don't want to put it all on that offensive line, because it's pretty clear they absolutely sold out to stop the run, figuring that we wouldn't be able to move the football if they did that. And they were right. We could do nothing right. Honestly, the Locke interception, obviously it's something we'll get to probably later here, was an absolute backbreaker and an absolutely destroyed any momentum the team had. After that moment, you could kind of feel the entire stadium deflate, because we weren't doing a great job of moving the ball down the field, but we still had confidence, and it just went out the window at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say big picture for me is that, I'm just upset. I feel like I'm with most Badger fans in that we really thought this was a game that we could get, but the reality is we're not there yet. We're just not close. I mean, these are games that, frankly, the old Badgers we were winning these games because we were running the ball. We weren't making mistakes, and our defense was always able to get stops when it mattered. And our defense played okay in the first half. Our defense did their part. I think, and overall in the game, I think their defense, for the most part, did their part. The defense gave them 21 points to the number 3 team in America. We could have done a lot worse in that regard. The offense, as Justin said, I think you're right, sputtered a lot in the second half. The first half was okay. We played all right. We're going to get into some of those details. But, it's just we just didn't have it in the second half. We made all kinds of the wrong decisions. And then all of a sudden, their backup quarterback shows up in the game. We're like, oh, hey, all right, Drew Allar's out. What's Beau Pribula going to do to us?
Yeah.
But
one thing I want to say about the defense,
he was just another guy that was able to run the read option, was really confusing things for our team in general. We weren't prepared for that, and that killed us. And we, rather than taking advantage of the fact that we were going up against a second string quarterback, we couldn't get the stop on when it mattered.
Well, one of the things I want to say about the defense is they weren't terrible, but one thing I want, it's been a consistent issue that we're seeing is it's a lot like an offense that has to nickel and dime it down the field. Our defense just can't create any level of negative plays. And what that does is it's like you're nickel and diming on defense. Like you're just sitting there hoping that the offense shoots themselves in the foot because you can never put them into like tough situations because you're not able to get interceptions. You're not able to force fumbles. You're not able to force sacks. You can't hit, blast the run plays in the backfield. The lack of negative plays from the defense is really concerning. And it's part of it plays a big role in these games against the better opponents because we can never put them on their heels and they eventually get comfortable, which I think is what happened in the second half. They just were like, this defense can't hurt us. So just go out there and make your plays and we'll get it done. We had one sack and I think maybe a couple of tackles for loss, but overall the defense really didn't make Penn State uncomfortable.
Yeah, they most certainly didn't. I forgot one guy, Bill Woj, by the way. It's the second time we met him. He says, Justin is bigger than I thought. Did you play ball? Yeah, see, this is funny because I actually am the shortest of the three of us somehow, which I hate to admit. But Justin is like tall and Ryan's pretty tall and just ugh. But anyway, yes, Bill Woj, great to see you as well. So I'm going to put up some stats here so we can continue talking about the game a little bit, Justin. So these are some of our key stats right away. Turnovers, we each had one. I, for some reason, don't even remember when Drew Allar turned it over because it was just, like, what the hell? But
I didn't either. For whatever reason, I completely missed that Forkerine fumble recovery.
Yeah. Rushing yards per carry. This is a big one. 3 yards for us, 4.9 for Penn State. Third down efficiency, 7 of 18 for us, 8 of 14 for them. Game yards, we had 298 yards to their 419. And, of course, one of the other big stats, passing yards per attempt, we were at 5.2. Penn State was 7.9, and they beat us in the time of possession by over 10 minutes. What jumps off the page at you here? For me, obviously, it's rushing yards per attempt and rushing yards per carry. Yep. Justin, we both thought we were going to run the ball, and it just didn't work out. It looks like they were completely prepared for us to do what we were going to do. I don't think there was enough in creativity in the running plays. 3 yards per carry, and that being the strength of our team, was never going to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line wasn't great in this game. The first half wasn't terrible, but they were definitely far from dominant. And I think we expected them because they had been fairly consistent with the ability to run the football pretty much against anybody coming up to this point, and it just wasn't there in this game. It felt like it got to the point where Penn State knew we weren't going to hurt them through the air, so they just started rumblitzing and selling out on us, and we were pretty terrible in the second half running the football.
Continuing our offensive discussion, here's our offensive involvement tracker here. So just a quick thing. If you look at the running backs, Tawee Walker, 22 carries for 59 yards, 2.7 yards a carry. And Darrion Dupree had 3 carries and 3 yards. That's the end of it. There was no Cade Yakimelli. Once again, don't understand that. We're about to answer that question or talk about that. From a receiver perspective, 13 targets for Will Pauling, 8 receptions, and 2 drops. Vinny Anthony was our best receiver on the day, 10 targets, 7 receptions for 68 yards.
Does 2 drops seem low to you for Pauling?
It does, and I think it's these are pulled from PFF, so I'm not 100% sure what they use. I mean, I think Trech Kekahuna definitely had 2 drops, but they're listing it as 1.
I think Pauling had 3.
Yeah, and I think Pauling had 3 as well. But I mean, first let's talk about running backs. So Cade Yakimelli, Justin, with not getting carries. Yeah, I'm beyond frustrated with this because
I don't honestly. No offense to Cade, I don't think it mattered in this game. I think the offensive line was just bad.
I don't care. You still got to give him carries.
I don't disagree. He needs to be on the field more. And when we're not productive, like find production in any place you can. But I honestly think it probably saved his yards per carry this game because otherwise the poor blocking probably would have stung him quite a bit.
And going back to that poor blocking, I think what continues to frustrate me is, like I said, mentioned the lack of creativity. You look, Penn State loses their star quarterback, comes in with their backup, and they're running plays we haven't seen before. And that's play calling. That's, again, the guy that we talked about, Andy Kotelnicki. He's a really good offensive coordinator. He's inventive. He's doing things that are different. And we're not. We're running that same read option play. There was no jet sweeps. There was nothing creative. There's not a lot of toss plays. Nothing really under center. It was just the same play over and over. Locke doesn't keep it. which means what's the read option? What are you optioning? You know what you're doing. You're just handing the ball off. So the entire Penn State front seven's like, yeah, well, we know Locke's not going to keep it. Guess what? You got to keep it, or you got to stop calling that play. I mean, the play calling, Justin, is beyond frustrating to me. And there were times where I'm like, okay, good play. Last 3 games, we played all right. And then you just see this stuff where it just kind of makes you shake your head and say, look across at the other sideline. Look what that guy's doing. Look how he is changing the game. He has his backup quarterback in, for goodness sakes. Did they miss a beat? No, except one series where we really, pushed him back. It's just, we're not doing anything to help our players out. We're going to talk about Locke next, but I want to talk about Longo right now and the lack of the good play calling that, again, goes along with this theme so far of our inability to run the ball.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I mean, it got to the point where the only things that it seemed like we were calling were slants and crossers. Cutting across the field, or basically throwing the slant to Vinny Anthony. And one of the times Vinny Anthony almost got picked off because the corner didn't even move. He just stood right there, and Locke basically threw it right to him, and Anthony pulled it away from the defender. So, I mean, it's gotten to the point where he's become very predictable, and you can't be predictable in games like this. Like, the defense is too good. You're playing against a team that has better athletes than you. Unless the offensive line is dominant, you're not going to be able to get away with that type of play calling. We don't have that right now. So you got to find ways to be creative and cause problems for the defense rather than letting them get them comfortable, because they know exactly what you're going to be doing offensively the entire game.
Yeah. Comment here that I've now since lost. It was Bill Woj, actually, I think, or someone was talking about how Fickell never gets asked about Yak's carries. And I completely agree. I said this to you guys on Saturday night. We could have gone to the press conference. We did not. We did this up in the press box. But why is no one asking him that? It seems like a really reasonable question to ask. That why is Cade Yakimelli not getting carries? So that's very frustrating.
I think he has once or twice. I think he made the comment that, he's been productive. We need to get him back out there. It just doesn't materialize. But I think people are basically kind of reading between the lines on it and not asking. Now, I get it, wanting to ask the question, but I don't know what difference it really makes. The reality, when it comes down to it, is he needs to see the field. Like, we're not playing well enough, especially against good teams, to not give opportunity to people who are producing.
So let's talk about our quarterback, Braedyn Locke. So he had 22 of 42, 217 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, yards per attempt of 5.2, Justin. Look, I know that Penn State's a better team than he's seen, but I mean, we already talked about the pick. My God, that pick. So by the way, we were standing right behind that. We were actually in the south end zone for that part of the game. And I mean, it was the most egregious. You even said on the reaction show it was the worst throw you have ever seen.
Yeah.
He admitted that he saw the player and he still made the pass. And it kind of goes back to my play calling thing. Why are you calling that play there? You got pushed back on the first 2 downs. Guess what? Just run the ball and punt.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I understand we got to be aggressive, but you also can't put your quarterback in that kind of a situation. But
you're letting the defense effectively tee off on him. But not only that, you also have looking at it, you've run 4 plays the entire game, it seems like. And shockingly, we had a slant run across the middle where there's a defender just sitting there waiting for the guy to come across. Now, it was an egregious throw. And when I was watching it, the play as it happened, it looked like he got some pressure in his face and he just winded up and got rid of the football.
He panicked because he was on the goal line. Yeah.
And it was a horrific idea. At that point, I would just wing it 50 yards downfield where no one is if you have to. But just don't put it in play. And unfortunately, he just threw the ball right to a guy. It's like he's playing catch with him. I don't think he had to move a step.
That was really yikes. I'm going to put up 3 comments and I'm going to get your take on Locke. So one leg up says, it's our total lack of QB play that gives us no shot in big games. He says, I'm done with Locke. We haven't won any games because of him, but we have lost several because of his crappy play. And Michael Rawson says, why are we seeing a general turn on Locke after this game? He was forced into uncomfortable situations while he got little help from receivers in the run game. So give me your take on this one, Justin, what Michael's saying, and then I want your total sort of analysis of where Locke is right now. But what are your thoughts on this question?
Well, my gut instinct looking at this is I think Longo is a little hampered by what he can do offensively with the arm that Locke has, because he can't really throw outside the numbers. You don't have the arm to be able to throw the outs, so you're kind of locked into having to work in the middle of the field, which really limits the route tree that you can get away with. It probably would help a little bit if we had a good tight end. Unfortunately, we don't really have anybody that can stretch the seam at all. So you're basically running crossers and you're running slants. My gut instinct is that he's just too limited as a passer to be able to really affect good teams. I just don't think he's got the arm for it. I think he's fine against teams like pretty much everyone Iowa on down, but the athletes that you're going to start seeing against the top teams in the Big Ten are going to be a problem for him because he doesn't have the ability to allow guys to separate to the edges. And that means there's always going to be people kind of all staggered right in the middle. Excuse me.
So my thing on Locke is, look, I know there's a lot of questions about like his receivers didn't help him, and you're right. The receivers did not help him. Trech Kekahuna had the worst game he's had as a Badger so far. No doubt.
It wasn't all on him for sure.
It wasn't. But the point is that his receivers didn't put him in good spots. Like those were big drops, by the way. The Pauling drop over the middle was on third down. You all of a sudden are on a solid touchdown drive potential. Like there were a lot of times where drives were stalled because his receivers dropped balls. There were also a lot of drives that were stalled because, Longo's calling a back shoulder throw to C.J. Williams, and Locke can't make that pass. Mm-hmm. Like he can't make that pass with any accuracy. There were I think 2 or 3 back shoulder passes that were incomplete. And I think I just feel like we were texting a little bit before the show. I think that Braedyn Locke is a quarterback. You look back at the old Paul Chris system and in previous years, he's a game manager type in the sense that with a good running game, he can play under center. He can do that whole thing, make decent passes. He can't throw the long ball. But what he can't do, Justin, and what I'm beginning to realize is he can't run the Longo offense as it currently sits. He's not tailor-made for Longo's system of being able to make quick reads, very accurate passes, in very tight windows in the middle of the field. And if you're going on the outside, whether it's back shoulder, whether it's deep, like he's simply not as accurate to have these timing plays that are so necessary when you're in Phil Longo's system. Could he have been a really good quarterback in another offensive system for Wisconsin? Yes. Now, that being said, for the last 3 weeks, we've been singing Locke's praises and saying that he could really be a guy and that he was playing well. But now he was tested. Bill Woj had a comment earlier about how he looked like he was scared and intimidated. He wasn't up for this game. He couldn't really play in this game. And give credit where credit is due. We give credit to Penn State. Penn State flustered them. Penn State made it very, very difficult for him to find any receivers. Our receivers weren't getting a ton of separation. But I just don't think he's really going to be able to run the system that we want to run when we play good teams. Now, if we're playing Rutgers and Penn, whatever, Purdue, we can do whatever we want against those teams. But we couldn't run the ball, which means Locke had to beat them, and Locke isn't able to get that done.
And I think that's where having a mobile quarterback comes in and can kind of offset some of the arm strength. If you have somebody has some legs, they have the ability to kind of break the pocket, and those throws to the edges that are a problem aren't as big of a problem because you can shorten the throw a little bit with your legs. We don't really have anybody that can do that. And I mean, Jaron Mock is going to be some of that. Matoyer can throw to that edge, but he's just not ready yet. The arm is big. We'll see what happens with him coming into next season. But I saw multiple people in the chat saying, who is the quarterback for next year on our roster? I don't know if he is. I guess it depends what the staff is thinking going into next year. Do you go into next year thinking, hey, we're going to be limited at quarterback again. We have a really tough schedule again. We have another probably four top 25 type teams that we're going to have on that schedule again. I don't feel great about that. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's going to be, unless you can find somebody that can add a little bit or give you some ceiling, you're going to have to go get somebody again.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't want to have to do that. I don't want to.
Neither do I.
Year 3 of a transfer quarterback. That doesn't.
But it shows you also haven't been doing a great job recruiting too.
Well, there's no doubt about that. Tyler Strieber says the majority of OCs don't have NFL prospect quarterbacks. Why do we still make excuses for Phil and that he doesn't have that in Locke? Got to find a way. I agree with that, Tyler. I think he does need to figure out. He needs to call better plays. We've established that. There's no doubt. We're not matching up. you're not taking Locke's ability, which is here, and Longo's calling. They're not mirroring each other. Like it's like Longo's putting calls out there that Locke can't do, and Locke's not able to fit his system. And I think that's where the disconnect really exists. As far as next year's quarterback, you think Tyler Van Dyke, he comes back, maybe he can be the guy again. He was looking a little bit better before he went down, but I mean, I don't think Braedyn Locke's the guy unless you change offensive coordinators. But if you change offensive coordinators, Locke's probably going to leave, as will his brother in the future. So I really don't know, man. I hope that Tyler Van Dyke can be that guy. Maybe if he comes back, if he comes back and really can be that guy, then maybe that's where we go with it. But otherwise, you are going to be looking at the transfer portal again, which, geez, like we don't need that. We just don't. That's like you're starting fresh again.
You end up with a quarterback who's never comfortable right away. So he's busy trying to find his legs through the first few games of the season to even be competent. I don't love it, but it is what it is. I in all honesty, I think there is a solid chance that we might be seeing the last few games of Phil Longo here. And I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing. I think they need somebody that's got a little bit more of a creative mind at that position, who's capable of providing some things that we are not seeing. They need to be able to put a defense on its heels a little bit and cause some problems. And I don't think that we've done that at all, other than the really bad teams that we're just physically more talented than.
We don't have not only do we not have a signature win, we don't even have a good win on our
whenever you watch the upsets happen in a game, when it's a team that's a less talented team, it's always because they take risks or hit on some plays that you're not expecting. That there was none of that in this game where we looked at it and was like, oh my God, where did that come from? And the closest thing was a punt fake that wasn't meant to be a punt fake. So, I mean, I really don't know what to say there.
Yeah.
Like the lack of creativity is frustrating.
It's very frustrating, and we'll just have to see what next week brings, which we're going to get into. Let's talk about the defense, Justin. So I'm going to put up some defensive involvement stats here. As you all know, we do our breakdown of snap counts. So overall, Hunter Wohler had 11 tackles. We had a couple different three total tackles for loss, one from Jaheim Thomas, one from Jake Chaney, and half from each from Hills and Witt. One sack from Jake Chaney. From the involvement perspective, on the D line, pretty much everything went for the Barton, Hills, and Kurt Neal. Dylan Johnson, Lane, and McDonald barely really played. From the middle linebacker perspective, we saw only 7% of the snaps from Tackett Curtis. This was all Chaney at 90%, Thomas 72%, Alliegro 22%. So we really didn't see much from Tackett Curtis, if at all. From the outside, Daryl Peterson continued to be the bell cow there, 59%. Aaron Witt took a big jump up this week at 48%, obviously to stop Penn State's running attack with Singleton and Allen. And then Pius and Cheeks both had 34% last week. They went down to 20%. They weren't really as heavily involved. No other real big surprises. Obviously, Forker and Hallman, Wohler, and Zachman kind of taking care of things on the back end. Xavier Lucas did not play, obviously because of his injury, which is really too bad. We certainly could have used him at times in this game. Anything really jump off the page here at you, Justin, on either the snap counts or the defensive stats?
I mean, not really. I felt like we've kind of seen what we've seen all season long on defense. Like there wasn't nobody really flashing or looking dominant. The tackle for loss and sack numbers are just crushing me. I don't know about you, but it's so frustrating to see like 2 or 3 tackles for loss in a game, because it just speaks to how little, like, the lack of aggression that we have defensively. Like, I'm not saying we need to be what we were under Leonard, but we would have games where we'd get to almost double digits. We can't even get halfway there right now. I would love to have games where we're just getting 7 or 8. At least then, you feel like they're blowing up some plays occasionally. Right now, it just feels like guys have no clue and they're just getting late to it and stopping it, the bleeding, as much as they can.
Which is why I was a little surprised to see Cheeks and Pius not getting more playing time, just because they did cause some disruption the week prior. But look, I know that that's just one game, and who knows? They were looking at matchups and things like that. But as we said, Justin, the defense kind of did their job. Now, when Beau Pribula, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, some Penn State fan will surely correct me. Beau Pribula came in the game. We kind of thought, okay, well, this is nice. And he was quite mobile. They were running a ton of read option for him. He was pulling it and going through massive gaping holes. We couldn't get the stop.
You could have driven semis through some of the holes that he had.
Right. Well, that's for sure. We couldn't get stops we needed late in the game when they were up 8. We couldn't get that last stop, of course, when it went up 28-13. But again, for the most part, Justin, they gave up 21 points. 7 points clearly falls on Braedyn Locke. So, I mean, you got to think coming into this game, if I had told you that our defense is going to give up 21 points, I still would have been confident that we were going to win that game. In fact, you called for 21, I called for 20. So we Penn State scored what we both thought they were going to score. It's just that we couldn't score what we thought. So yeah. I'm feeling okay about what this defense is doing right now. I'm feeling really good about certain players. Nizer Forkran continues to really be a guy that's making big plays. Obviously, our entire secondary, Hallman, like everyone's playing pretty well. And even up front, and we've given a lot of flack to the D linemen. But again, Barton, Elijah Hills, they're getting it done up there. Kurt Neal, they're doing what they need to do. Now, they're not being perfect, and the linebackers still have something left to be desired. You're right about the tackles for loss and the sacks, but the bend but don't break system is working. If we could just score more points, we would definitely be in this game a lot more. If we would have won this game.
We need to be able to consistently put together drives, and that was a problem in this game.
But are you happy with the defense overall? I mean, I'm okay on them. On my rewatch, I thought, okay, well, they forced a lot of punts. They forced some 3 and outs. Like they definitely put our offense in a position to win this game, but they couldn't deliver. So I'm not really, and we're gonna do our grades next. I'm not really down on the defense here.
I'm not super down on them, but I am frustrated with the lack of a havoc or disruption plays that this defense, because it makes them have to be perfect. Like when you can't, like the sheer number of turnovers that we have forced is just brutal this year so far. They have not been able to turn teams over. And that's part of what I mean by that is if you can affect a quarterback, like you can get interceptions and stuff like that because guys make ill-advised throws because they're rushed. This defense can't do that. Like it doesn't ever get you in a good situation to get turnovers. Quarterbacks are just too comfortable back there. Like they may not end up gashing you, but they're not being put into situations where they have what basically happened to Braedyn Locke, which is somebody's coming up near his feet so that the guy throws a ball that he shouldn't. And that's not happening. Like it feels like quarterbacks are way too comfortable being able to sit there and kind of figure out where everyone is because there's nobody in their face.
You'd have told me before the game, actually, no, forget before the game, before Phil Longo got here, that we were going to be holding teams like the number 3 team in America to 21 points. I'm like, we're going to be fine because we're going to be scoring 30, 35 points a game, but that's just not happening. And that's really, really upsetting. But what are you going to do? It's just, it's just frustrating because it seems that we can't play complementary football. Now we did the last couple of weeks. We played it against Northwestern for sure, but there were so many times where you and I were sitting there and Ryan and like, okay, big drive here. We got a big stop. Now let's do something with it. That didn't happen. I want to touch on – go ahead. I'm
a little frustrated too with the lack of a perceived aggression towards finding playmakers in recruiting too. We've barely really gone after receivers. We've gone after a couple of slot guys and one outside guy in Hilton. And it's clear that we're limited on the outside. And I really wish they would be like, yeah, we need to find some dudes on the outside and keep going for bodies until you get somebody that pans out. But right now, I keep looking at it. And it's like, are we going to end up one of these years, we're going to have like 3 or 4 guys. And it's like, why can't we stagger this better? Why do we always have to wait and then have like 4 freshmen come in and be like, great, none of these guys are probably going to help us this year. So it's a good thing they're on the roster. Maybe 3 years from now, they'll be helpful.
Yeah,
receivers are notoriously, unless you're Ohio State, not going to help you right away. So I hate this when we keep pushing off until the numbers work out because we should recruit over guys that aren't productive. If we have 3 guys in that room that are garbage, then look for 3 guys to replace those guys. Every other really top-end school is doing that. It's the way of the world now for college football. Either find guys that will produce or you move on.
Amen, brother. All right, let's do some grades. After our wins, we've been doing a lot of superlatives and awards, but no awards for this game. So let's go and talk about some grades. We're going to start on the tough side of the ball here. I think our defensive grades are definitely going to be better, but we're going to start on the offensive side. Quarterback, Justin, give me your quarterback grade and put your grades in the chat. I'll pop them up on the screen as well.
He's a D. That throw was horrific. And, it wasn't just that. He was inaccurate on a few different throws that really cost them in tough situations. He just is so limited, and it feels like Penn State just wasn't afraid of him at all. They never, for one, they looked like they were mostly in cover one for most of this game, and they just weren't afraid that he could attack them downfield at all. And I think for the most part, they're right.
I mean, when you see cover one, you're thinking, I mean, we said right away, we're like single high, like it was like, okay, let's see what can happen here. But they weren't afraid, as you said, and we couldn't make the throws. And when we were in one-on-one situations, the throw wasn't good enough. Like that just wasn't there. Like like I said, the back shoulder throws to Williams, which could not happen. I'm also going to D. I just feel like this is just a bad game for him. And I know they were playing Penn State. I get that. I know I had a couple comments on Twitter. It's like, oh, they played the number 3 team in the country. Yeah, I get that. And we only lost by 2 scores at the number 3 against number 3 team in the country. But if you watch this team like we do, and everyone listening to this show does, it's not good enough. We're better than that. Locke gets a D. Running backs, I'm gonna go D on this as well. I just feel like Tawee Walker, I know the O-line had a lot to do with this, but man, he just looked like he didn't have it. And he runs hard and he works hard out there, but I just feel like the running game was so weak, and there was
the
no
lack of elusiveness and ability to break ankle tackles is problematic with him.
Right, and the vision, being able to just quickly understand where the defense is and maybe pop something to the outside, try something different. It just didn't work, and the running game just gets a D for me.
Yeah, I would agree. It was problematic in this. He doesn't really provide a lot of elusiveness or burst, and I realized they tried it with Dupree, and the one time they went to the outside with him, he got absolutely manhandled because nobody blocked for him. He basically got crushed on in the backfield the second he started trying to sweep because the pursuit, no one was able to cut off the pursuit at all. But, yeah, it was a combination of things. His offensive grades are not going to be pretty.
Yeah. Give me your wide receiver grade, Justin.
D-. The number of drops that were in this game should never happen. Especially from one guy who was the 3rd leading receiver in the Big Ten last year. Get it together. You're going to be back next year because you've been pretty much awful this season. He's got to have double-digit drops by now on the season. He's been bad. I'm getting really frustrated. It's not like these are tough catches. No, but it's not like you have somebody draped all over you and you're not able to pull it in. Use your damn hands, catch the football.
When we were sitting in the stands and that first drop that Pauling had, you should have the look on Justin's face was just like he was giving a death stare out to Will Pauling. And I think verbatim, he's like Pauling is bleeping killing me this season. I think
these aren't 20 yards downfield. It's a 10-yard crosser, not even. And he can't hold the football. And it's not like you have Brett Favre winging it at you at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's Braedyn Locke. He's got a pop gun. Catch the damn football.
This is a guy at the beginning of the season, we were talking about an NFL caliber talent at wide receiver at the slot. And he was going to be a guy that was going to be able to do something. And he was going to be our best receiver coming into the season. He has not been that. That has been Vinny Anthony. Let's just get that out of the way. Vinny Anthony's the best receiver.
Vinny's been far better.
Vinny Anthony deserves, and so my grade is a C- for wide receivers, and I know that's a little higher than the other ones. It's because of Vinny Anthony.
Yeah,
This man is making catches that he doesn't need to be making. Trech and Will Pauling definitely did not play well. CJ Williams played okay. He was making attempts. There were some bad throws, but man, Vinny Anthony just keeps doing what he needs to do. So I'm giving them a C- just because he deserves a lot of credit for what's going to be done out there. Tight ends, I didn't really grade them. I looped them in with the other.
One catch or something like that, a 2.
Yeah. All right. Offensive line, Justin. This is a unit that we've been talking about a lot and saying a lot of nice things about. What are your thoughts?
It's a D. They weren't good. In the second half of the game, when they needed to impose their will and take us home, they were just bad. They got completely whipped in the second half. And you knew you were going to be running. They were going to start coming for you when you were going to start trying to run in the second half. So you need to be significantly better than that against a team that you want to prove that you can play against the best teams. You better be able to prove it when you need to. Like, playing good for one half is not cutting it.
For me, when I had my rewatch, which I watched, two different sittings, I hate to say this because I hate to question this kind of stuff, but I feel like the O-line looked like they were playing without heart. They weren't playing with passion. Like, there were so many times that they looked so dominant in those 3 games. I know who they were playing. I get that. Yeah. But, like, that team, like, and I know that Penn State, they have a very good front seven, but our O-line just looked like they were getting kind of kicked in the teeth over and over again. And every time you were in a one-on-one situation, Walker was, like, kind of going out to the left side, even Nelson, one-on-one with Carter, whoever, he just wasn't winning that battle. And the D linemen were just getting through every single time. They were getting off their blocks. They were able to have penetration. They were closing up the hole so quickly. And it was just like there was no real fight. I didn't see that sort of burning desire and passion in that O-line that I had seen week in and week out. I don't know if they just got demoralized after the first half or if they just thought they weren't in it.
They shouldn't have been. They were winning.
Right, but they just looked like they weren't in it in the second half, and I don't know what that was all about, and I'm not going to speculate. I just, we saw penalties on the O-line again. We saw some mistakes, and it was like, were we just talking them up so much, and they were all of a sudden like, yep, we're the best unit on the team, and then they just decided not to be? Yeah, that was disappointing. They were a D- for me. I was really upset with the O-line because on rewatch, I just thought, I don't really know what they're doing. And there was just no fight at all. And there were too many mistakes, way too many mistakes. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Again, I think our grades will be a little better here. D-line, where are you at on the D-line?
I think it's a C. Wasn't a ton of disruption in this game. They badly needed to play above average in this game, and I felt like they were average.
Yeah, C+ for me. I think they listen, you're playing a really great team. Let's just get that out of the way. Like, even though we don't want to admit it, Penn State's a really good team. And they're going to get tripped up. They're going to lose games. But I do give them credit. They played well. Their O-line was better than I thought it was. But I think overall C+ for me on the D line. They did the things they had to do. I'm really not going to knock the defense a lot. We gave up 16 points in 3 weeks. And then the defense gave up 21 points in this game. That's now 37 points in 4 games that this defense is giving up. I'm not hating on that. Inside linebackers, Justin.
They just weren't great. I would give them, I'm going to go C. It's going to be a lot of average in this. Like, I'm really just looking for guys to be playmakers on this. And Jaheim Thomas had a lot of tackles, but I really didn't see him making plays in the backfield or able to blow up anything or be, disruptive. It seemed like they were just cleaning up the mess. Like, oh, they got their 5 yards, time to tackle them now. That's not going to cut it. Like, if we want to be really good defensively, you're going to have to be able to occasionally meet them at the line.
Yeah, there were plays where I thought that they did make some disruptive plays. I'm actually a B- for the inside guys, and I'm going C for the outside guys, just because I think the outside guys did not get enough disruption. It did not do enough. But I will say, I think there were times, by the way, there were times where Chaney just missed tackles. We were like sitting in the stands like, he's got to make that tackle. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I'm not really that upset about what the defense did. So I'm going inside B- and then C for the outside. What's your outside grade?
I mean, I didn't really see anybody do anything much in this game. So I would give them a C- probably. Like, your biggest job is the pass rush, and you got no pressure at all.
Like, none. And the only times there was pressure was a coverage sack. Mm-hmm. The sacks were coverage, but even pressure was almost because of coverage. It's, there was no real pressure. The secondary was doing their job. Allar had to make quick moves in the pocket, step up, step to the right, move the pocket a bit. And then that pressure was on him, and it was difficult for him to make those throws. But that's really up to the secondary, truthfully. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm going to go next. Give me your quarterback. You can split up quarterback, safety, the whole secondary, however you want to do it.
Yeah, I would probably give them a C+, B-. I'll split the grade on that. I mean, you're not getting help by your front seven, but there were times when it's like anytime they needed a completion, it seemed like Penn State could find one, and it was really frustrating. It's like you hold, you keep them from being able to do anything, and then the second they need to get a completion, the guys just would finally break on the ball after the catch was made. It's like you're getting there second late every time instead of being able to break anything up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Penn State's overly gifted at wide receiver. Like, they weren't setting these guys on fire and breaking off, big chunk receptions and stuff like that. There's a lot of slants and stuff like that and crossers for them too. And it just seemed like guys were never able to get there in time to break it up.
They did what they were supposed to do. Like Penn State, you're right. They don't have the speed. They never really attacked us downfield with the wide receivers, but they did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Penn State's quarterbacks
made a couple of really tough catches on us.
Yeah, they were a combined 25 of 31. They had 6 incompletions out of 31 passes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can do the math there. That's a really high completion percentage from both of their quarterbacks combined. I'm still giving our defensive backs like a B. I think that we definitely had a plan here. We were going to allow them those plays. We weren't going to give up anything deep. We were going to gang tackle. We were going to have a lot of, as Mike Tressel said in his press conferences, a lot population to the football, speed. We did that. And I think that's why you're seeing the results of the Tressel defense, what they are, is that they're doing what they're asking him to do. They're asking them to do. They are, we're not going to cause a ton of disruption. We're just not going to give you a lot of points. And, you're going to get you're going to get on the field. Maybe you're forcing you into a field goal. We're going to force you into some difficult situations. Hopefully we can create some turnovers, which we did not really do. But that the defense is working in that regard. So while the numbers for the quarterbacks look pretty good for Penn State, I actually was fairly happy with the way the defensive backs played because we didn't give those big plays up. We talked a lot pre-game about Tyler Warren. He had 7 receptions, but only for 46 yards. That's actually pretty good on him. Like 46 yards.
They were using him a lot.
Yeah.
So they held him fairly well in check. But yeah, they were pretty creative in finding ways to get him the football. But yeah, he definitely was kept under wraps a lot more. That package that they have with him as basically a battery ram out of the backfield. Not a bad play for him. He's a big physical guy, and he's not afraid to take contact. It'd be nice to have some of that at times when we need a play.
Yeah, seriously. A couple quick comments from Beau and go back to the offense. He says, Penn State offensive coordinator was so much more creative. When you are an inferior team, you have to be more creative. You can't let the better team coach better also. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly agree with that. Let's go there, actually, Justin. Let's talk about coaching grade. Look, this really upsets me. I think that we talk every time I have to come on here and talk about the lack of creativity with Longo.
Let's do one happy one here first. Let's go special teams.
Oh, hey, baby, let's go.
Let's give them their flowers because you had Vacos drill 2 big kicks, and Bertram's was excellent again.
I mean, we talk a lot about Iowa's special teams play and how much of a weapon their punters typically are for them. That is Atticus Bertram. He is having the year of his life, by the way. Fantastic performance on the special teams. That's the thing that pisses me off, Justin. Why can't that game with the special teams be when our offense and defense playing well? The complementary football isn't there. Really, really nice to see Bertram's being a weapon. Vacos nailing 2 kicks, love it. And the coverage, kickoffs, nothing was bad. The fake punt, which wasn't really supposed to be a fake punt. Atticus Bertram's, by the way, we'll never know. Like it wasn't a planned fake.
No, he absolutely knew he was getting blocked, and
it would have been blocked. So there's a problem there. So that's one thing that's bad against special teams because that guy was unblocked, which is a problem. However, Bertram's literally faked him out. He literally fake kicked, then he faked it again. He's like, all right, I'm just going to go. And he took off and he got like 25 yards. And he got walloped on the end of the side. I wish he would have run out of bounds a little faster because he already had it. But great job from Atticus Bertram's.
Beau Dragon, I'm going to push back on this one. Beau Dragon, Wohler basically giving up on punt return game. I disagree. He wasn't terrible returning punts in this game. He caught the ball every time, which is a huge plus, but he had a couple of really solid returns in this game. Would you like somebody that's got a little bit more speed and a little more elusiveness? Yes, you would. I don't think he was terrible.
Listen, Beau, and what I would say is to you as well, Justin, he's catching them all. So I'm good with that. Okay. Yep. That was not the case in his first game. I'm fine with that. I don't care if he fields all the punts and knows whether it's too deep or not to field it. That's a win for me. I don't need Jim Leonard back there running back kicks. Like I loved it. And that was great. And I was at Wisconsin when he was running kicks back. But we don't have that guy on our roster right now. I don't want mistakes made in that game. Just catch the ball, and you're not going to hear any complaints from me. All right, let's go coaching here. We'll split this up a little bit. So first of all, Mike Tressel, for me, I'm going to give him a B. I think, again, the defense did what they were supposed to do. I have no real complaints. Don't love the fact that we didn't blitz them as much. We didn't try to get pressure on them, but he clearly had a game plan, Justin, and it worked as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a B is probably a solid grade for him. I don't think there was nothing that I looked at that was obvious that they were pouring in this game. It seemed like he had his guys ready to go and they were ready to play. It's just not an overly talented unit.
Yeah. Offensive coordinator, give me your Longo grade.
D. Like, I didn't love this game in terms of the offense, and it wasn't helped by in terms of execution. So, and I don't know how much his hands were tied by the fact that guys just weren't able to do the simple things. So he's like, we're not going to do something more creative when I can't even get you to catch the ball on a routine play that we've run 500 times.
I mean, I don't normally do this, and I don't like doing this, but I'm giving him an F, and I'm over it. I'm just over the because, Justin, I feel like we're getting out coached all the time. Like, I don't like that. I don't want to constantly be out coached. I don't want to constantly be like coming on the podcast and saying
he just never seems to have a feel for the game.
Sure would be nice if we weren't out coached once again. And we knew Andel Kotonecki is a genius, and he was going to do that for his team. But, it's not like the Penn State defense couldn't be had at all. Like 13 points, come on. Like I'm sorry. We need to be better. We can't put ourselves in that kind of situation. The running game wasn't working. There was no creativity. I understand sometimes if the players aren't working and that we don't have the players, and I get that. The thing is, we as fans can see that. People can see that. So when you just don't have the players, and when if that's the case, then change something, work on something different, do something inventive and creative that puts the defense on their heels, similar to what Kotelnicki did to us. Like, if we consistently don't do that against big teams,
you need to make the defense think.
I hate it. I don't. I mean, I'm just like, come on. Now, we saw that against the bad teams. We saw some creativity. Don't be afraid to do it here. Things weren't working. Change it up. If your game plan, if your plan A isn't effective, switch to plan B. Mm-hmm. You need a plan B. You need to do something. I'm frankly just getting a little bit annoyed with coming on here and saying that, like, we're not being creative enough. And I'm just losing my patience with that. And I'm a very optimistic fan. I'm a very excited fan. I'm all about it. But you got to give me something to cheer about, and that's not happening. So for me, I put B and D. I'm putting Fickell kind of at a C minus. I just overall, like, just not the greatest game from all the elements. There was a lot of discussion about at the end of the first half not having the ball 40 seconds to go. I was okay with the plan, and in fact, I said that multiple times. I'm good with that. I don't know where you're at on this, but I'm still going C minus for Luke Fickell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would stay with that too. He's the man at the top. It's hard for me to give him a good grade in a game that it feels like we gave away in the second half.
Yeah. Before we touch on Iowa, Justin, I wanted to talk a little bit about Wilderson Telemark. So there was a decommitment. We're going to switch gears a little bit. Tell me what your thoughts are. I know you have a lot to say when it comes to the recruiting front. So give me your thoughts on Wilderson and what's going on.
Sure. Ryan and I are kind of in a disagreement on this one. We had talked a little bit about him, and I said that I had reviewed his film from this year, and I said I wasn't overly impressed with it. And I said that well before any of this came leaking out, that I'm like, I expected more of a growth from him in terms of coming into his senior season. He's obviously now decommitted. Word on the street is that it was a mutual parting of ways. You can argue whether that's something that Wisconsin is, saw the writing on the wall, but Telemark was also a kid that was kind of looking around and not necessarily shutting things down in a way that most schools aren't a fan of. And I don't think he's that level of recruit. I really don't think that you will sit there and have a guy that's acting like he's a 5-star when he's a 3-star, and a 3-star that's a project.
His physical tools would have been pretty nice, though. I mean, you can't argue with that.
I question. Here's the thing that I said when he didn't show a huge amount of jump in his productivity coming into this year, I said I'm concerned. And we kind of talked about it with Drayden Pavey. His senior film is excellent. He looks like a senior playing against everyone else and just dominating. We're not seeing that from Telemaque. He's a guy who struggles to be disruptive. He's got a nice frame and he's got decent speed. It's not showing up on film. Like is clearly struggling with leverage and strength and not being able to get past guys and get into the backfield. He always seems like he's the second or third guy in. And this is high school. It's not going to suddenly get better when you get to the college level and, athletically everyone catches up to you.
A lot of those things, there are some things that can develop raw talent, but there's also things that, like, if he's not doing it in high school, he's not going to do it at the next level. Kind of like how I feel about my quarterback in Indianapolis. He didn't throw in college. He can't throw now. He just got benched, by the way. Anthony Richardson. Thank you. I have a lot to say about that. But nonetheless, and Pavey, obviously, I agree with you, by the way. I think for the most part, his upside was there. I think Telemaque, the upside is there, but if it's not happening now in the senior film, it's not going to happen. Really like the Drayden Pavey commitment. He is just a big dude with a lot of power and a guy that you can just see that sort of translating to the next level, which would be really good. Let's end the show. We'll be back in a couple of days with our preview to Iowa, but let's quickly look ahead to that. Kinnick Stadium at night. This has been flexed to a night game, which I don't love that, by the way. It's a 6:30 Central NBC game at Iowa. We've talked about the fact that we don't have a signature win. We're not going to get that necessarily this year as far as a top-ranked team. But a win at Iowa is a hell of a way to get your season very quickly back on track. As far as, right now we're sitting at 5-3. We win that game, all of a sudden you're looking at, you still got those two at the end of the season. I mean, are you excited about this game? Are you nervous? Like, just kind of what you're feeling right now about going into the play Iowa.
I'm frustrated with this team. My perception of this is, well, you're blowing it against every team that's really good. At least beat Iowa, who's a team that's good, that would be a standard above what you've proven that you can do under Luke Fickell so far. A win against Iowa would prove that you're at least on Iowa's level, which is something that we haven't been for the last several years. So I would love to see us be able to go out there and prove that we can play disciplined and play smart. And they're going to be playing with a backup quarterback. And they're already a one-dimensional team that basically just relies on the run. So figure it out, get it done stopping the run game, and get this game taken care of, because right now this is brutal. And this is a gettable game. Iowa's not a world beater on offense, but if you don't stop the run, they will run on you.
And they were in a situation where, like, this would be Luke Fickell's best win.
Absolutely.
If he wins at Iowa, which look, Luke, I believe in you, but I feel like we got to check one of these boxes off. We got to check one of these boxes. Yep, that's a good win. That hasn't happened yet. We haven't had that. And it's not like a crazy big ranked win. We're 0-5 against ranked teams. That's not going to change this week because Iowa's not ranked. But winning at Kinnick Stadium at night would be such a huge thing. And frankly, after everything we just went through in Madison this past weekend, I sure would like to have something.
They need a palate cleanser.
Yeah,
this would be that.
Justin, final thoughts before we close the show today.
Get it together, clear your head, and move forward. You've got to get these lower games and build towards winning the bigger ones, because as of right now, we're not ready for that. But what you can do is you can prove that the games that you should win, you do.
What I would say is, first of all, thank you again for all of you listening. Over 100 of you watched us live tonight. Thank you. Weird, odd time and day to do it, but travel stuff and going back from Madison. So first of all, hit the like button if you're still listening. Thank you so much. That really helps us out. And also, if you like what we're doing only. And again, just a big thank you. I want to say that again. We had such a fun time. I mean, Justin and I and Ryan really enjoy getting together, but being able to see so many of you and just enjoying the atmosphere is really, really special. So thank you to all those that participated in that. And you're absolutely right. We have to, I think you said it right, cleanse the palate. Like, this was ugly. It was a game that we were really hoping we could get, but we couldn't, because be real. We're not there yet. This is a game that we can get. So I would love to have that passion back from the O-line that I kind of lost and I didn't see in the second half of this game. Get that back. Do what you got to do. Give Cade Yakimelli some carries. Run the ball. And for God's sakes, Phil Longo, just do something different, please. And Braedyn Locke, you're gonna need to hold that. If we're gonna run the read option, for God's sakes, you're gonna need to pull that ball, because that's the only way that end is not going to crash and is going to actually defend you. And then you can open things up. These are the kinds of things that I want to see in the Iowa game. A win would be absolutely massive for us. We will be back this week to preview that game, give you our 3 big things and our score predictions. Thank you for listening. And as always, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.